Hello everybody, welcome to the Labyrinth of Limitations. I thought for this episode we would look at transformations again in a minor 2/5, but this time looking at single note playing. So we're going to look at Stella by Starlight, the ending, where it goes... the ending just with some movement. This is a 2/5 to 5. This is E half to minor 7th to A7. And then instead of playing D minor, it plays D minor 7 flat 5, which is D half to minor 7th to A7 to C minor 7 flat 5 to F7 to B flat. And of course, we're going to think of the transformation I've done before for you guys in a little Labyrinth episode, where I take E minor 7 flat 5, think of it as G minor 6, move to B flat 7, D minor 7 flat 5 is F minor 6, and then I go to A flat minor 6, which is the same thing as G7. I hope I labeled this one right, said that right. This is the tritones minor for G7, and I go to the 2, to the tritones minor for F, and then, so this is 2 to 5, 2 to 5, using just minor 6 chords, and the transformation is 6 in the bass to 5th in the bass. Or if it were 5th in the bass, it would be 3rd in the bass. If it were 3rd in the bass, it would be root. If it were root, it would be 6th. So I'm taking a cycle, I'm viewing as kind of a scale, root, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and I'm moving backwards while staying in the same place on the guitar. So instead of going 6 in the bass to 5th in the bass, moving down, which keeps me on G minor 6, what I'm doing is I'm taking this chord and moving it up, and moving that down, and that creates the tritones minor, because tritones minor is a minor 3rd up chromatically from the 2 chord. So if I take this and move it up, that would be a way of doing it, but instead, and then you can do movement. Whoops. Just to get the idea, just for inspiration maybe, just of how this stuff works. I'm not thinking of anything other than the transformations really there. I've barely had a thought in my head besides just moving between those scales, and my hand has memorized where the 6th, in all these little shapes, I know the 6th, the 5th, and whatever, and I just practice transforming around to find these moves by moving through the family. But what we're going to look at is this. The scale patterns, we're looking at single note lines. This will be what we would do for the first 2/5. I would play, instead of playing A7, I would play C7, ending on the 3rd of A. So that is the formula for a minor 2/5, is to think of your 5 chord, and then think of minor 3rd up, and then just play the root of that scale raised a half step, and that creates the 3rd of your 5 that you're trying to play. So A7, C7, C sharp, which is the 3rd of A, and that's a way of doing it. Another way of doing it is to go like this. Caught what I did there was I did C7, and then I did the tritones minor for A when I get to the 5 chord. So, and then that's E flat 7. So now here's the thing. I've talked to you about the transformation. I've talked to you about how, before in a previous video, how I always connect any of these minor 6 chords. I'm always thinking of it as a 6 on the 5. Tritones minor is the 6 on the 5 for the tritone. G minor 6 is the 6 and the 5 for C7. So if I take this 2 chord and I just want to find my C7 out of it, if I've memorized the feeling of, that is some C7 stuff, because I see this pattern. I see that, this, what is called, if you think of the caged sequence, that's the E pattern. And this is, we're going to use the caged sequence to transform in only single note lines and then move into polyphony from that, if we want to. So this moves to this. This is the tritones minor, and I see this minor 6 as being connected to the C pattern from the caged sequence. See, of dominant 7 scale. So that's that. And then this is this, which is married to the E pattern, or going down from this, I see the G pattern. Okay, that's that. And then this is the tritones minor, so I see this, that idea. So I have this connected to my hand on any voicing of, so that is C, it's still, this is the E pattern I'm seeing here. If I go up, this is connected to the D pattern. Okay, so that's important. Because here's the thing. I've had an issue in my own playing where I'm kind of dependent, if I want to, see, because I like to do this sound. I like to move between those. So say something like, the best, but so that idea, what I'm doing is I'm playing C7 into E flat 7. That's what I'm doing, and that's been hard for me, but now I'm getting better at it because I found something this week that I never noticed before, and that's just like thinking 6 back to 5th. I can think of the 5 patterns of what people think of as caged. And if you don't know the caged sequence of scales, there's a lot of YouTube videos on it. So just Google, just enter caged guitar into YouTube and you'll find a lot of stuff if you had never learned it before. I'm sure a lot of you guys have because it's really common. I don't normally talk about it because I don't like ciphers. I don't like every good boy does fine. I want to just know that the 4th line of a treble clef staff is D. And I want that to have its own presence, its own value, all on its own. I don't want to have to think through a sentence every good boy does. I don't teach that stuff. I teach small amounts of information that we practice and then we slowly build on. That's the way I work with students. We learn through practice. But here I'm going to use caged because I'm going to move backwards in the caged sequence. So if I was on an E pattern on the C7, I can stay in the same area of the guitar and move to E flat 7, which is the tritone, by going from E to G. I'm going backwards in the word cage, C-A-G-E-D. So I'm going to go backwards from E. If I were on the D pattern, I would go backwards to E. If I were on the G pattern, I'd go backwards to A backwards to C, C back to D, like this. So, okay, so but that's what I'm doing is I'm playing E pattern into G pattern. What if I were on the G pattern? So that's what I would do. I would do G pattern into A pattern. So I'll do another G pattern, see? So let me, G pattern's triggered. Stuff I'm just kind of moving through, but I've never been able to do that before. What I've always had to do, confession, I've always been really dependent on my connection between the scale and the chord when going from C7 to E flat 7. I can think the normal like A7 and E flat 7 pretty well without viewing a chord. But this has always confused me. But now I see this pattern. So before I would have to go. See, I'm seeing a little chord and then I see the connection of, that was the tritones minor, and then I see the tritone. But if I just want to move through the scale, it's nice. And then I can like move from the scale. And the nice thing, the reason why I don't think altered scale, and we don't talk about altered, Barry never talks about altered scales, is because if I think tritone or dominant seventh or any of these things, I always have that 6 on the 5 connection, so I can always very easily go into polyphonic motion. Relatively easy. So I'll do just start with single notes. That took too much time, but it just becomes something. So this, maybe. I'll do it again. And then. And then I'll do scale. Maybe. You know, this is the connection between these things, scales and chords. But the chords are not chords, they're scales too. That's the idea. None of this stuff, I was saying this with a student yesterday, every single chord we learn should be viewed as a way station between other things. This is a way station between a drop 3 and an octave chord, but it's also a way station between same structure chords. Whoops. It's a way station between this. We have to see things as paths and not just cool chord buddy kind of stuff. They're paths. And so I really like this idea. This is the idea of a minor 2/5 with caged. And I'll talk about doing this kind of transformation, but in major key too, in another video. But and so you're using this caged patterning, which you can look up if you don't know it. And you're just going backwards in that pattern while staying in the same area of the guitar. And then you're connecting that to your 6 on the 5 chords. Every one of those patterns has a 6 on the 5 that connects to it, or multiple voicings, because you can have a drop 2, a drop 3, a drop 2 and 4. You could have thirds, you could have triads, any of that stuff, any of the elevator stuff, and anything you can think of. So it's really pretty stuff. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll be talking with you about more stuff. But I hope that you're as excited about this as I am. I think this is really, to me, it's really helpful. And yeah, so I'll talk soon. Keep practicing.